Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Sell More Book Show, episode 579. I'm Brian Cohen from Best Page Forward, joined by superstar romantic suspense author
Woohoo!
Janie Crouch. So, Janie, thank you for being here today.
Oh, my pleasure. So excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. I mean, when I've gone into this endeavor over the last year and a half of having a new co-host every couple weeks, I always am asking, who should I get next? And like, so, you had people recommend you and say, you should get Janie on. She's fantastic. And I can already tell that you are so great at talking about like what has worked for
Being
you and
nervous.
being nervous and being real. You're being real,
Well,
and it's good.
yes, and I know that because I love to just talk turkey with other authors because I feel like that is how we all grow together. So,
Yeah.
yes, love to talk specifics and that always helps me too. So, glad to
And
be here.
some Yeah, well, thank you. And something we always or that you and I talked about off the air is just look, there are some people who are successful in self-publishing because they are a magical unicorn.
That's right.
There are some who are, and
They
we've
are
had some of
magic.
them on the show. But
Yes.
like you can't replicate that. And if you
No.
try to replicate what a magical unicorn is doing, you just can't help but be
It's a train
disappointed.
wreck. Yes,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
Well, I call myself the high six-figure author that nobody's ever heard of. So that should be encouragement maybe to other authors that you don't necessarily have to be like a brand or a household name to making hopefully pretty good money. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're big on having a good system and having a good framework for your
Yes,
own
100%.
business.
I think having a real understanding of like the foundational principles and the publishing pipeline and just some basic mindset stuff, I think has really helped me out a great deal. So I'm happy to talk about that. Yeah.
And it's tough, right? Because
Oh man.
the shiny objects of this is the fanciest new marketing, right now it's the special editions in the TikTok shop.
Sure.
Next year
Yes.
it'll be something else.
Something else.
And that can be opposed to the idea of being, having your business plan set up and not being
That's
wooed
right.
by this other things. I mean, how do you keep yourself from getting tempted by all of the cool things out there, and how
Oh,
much do you allow yourself to be
oh
like, well, I
yes.
should try some things? Like, how do you balance
Mm,
that?
no, that's true because you don't want to get left behind. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes sometimes I'm too cautious. I think that something is just going to be like a flash in the pan. And it's like here we are with special editions 3 years later and it's still
Yeah.
going. And it's like,
Yeah.
hey, maybe I should have jumped sooner rather than right now. So, it's hard to know, but also there is a kind of a release or a relief to saying no to things, to just saying I'm going to focus on what I know and going from there. So
Yeah.
I try to balance that. It's different for everybody, and it's tricky,
It is
tricky for sure.
tricky. It is tricky, and we'll definitely talk about that a little bit more
Yeah.
today.
Okay.
If you are a romantic suspense reader out there, go check out
Woohoo.
janiecrouch.com to check out
Yeah.
all the cool stuff she's got going on. I mentioned this last couple of weeks, but my ad challenge is back, so go to authorsadvertise.com. Go check that out. It's now 9 days longer, but only available for $9, which is not so
Ooh,
bad.
that's perfect. Yeah.
Not so bad. So, couple weeks ago, we asked our audience a question: is your first action item tomorrow morning, the right thing to do to get you closer to achieving your goal? Helena Hattery said, I feed the cats so they don't eat me. Aside from that, yes, the first action item gets me closer to my goals. Bethany Tucker said, my first action items are always community and health related, Without a solid foundation, writing and publishing doesn't get done, which is a good idea there, Bethany. And Kirsten
Yeah.
Oliphant said, I feel very personally victimized by this question. It's
Yep,
tough. I mean,
it is.
we prioritize for a lot of reasons. We don't always prioritize based on what we want.
No.
How would you have answered this question,
Oh,
Janie?
this is a tricky thing because, the first thing you got to do is what is your goal?
Yep,
And make
that
sure
is
that's not shifting.
helpful.
I know we're going to talk a little bit about that later, but no, sometimes I would like to say that I always get up and start writing right away because I believe that's going to help me achieve my goal best. But I don't, right? You can get
Sure,
stuck answering
sure.
emails, doing all the other stuff. So
Yeah, it's not
I'm guilty.
it's not easy to set up the guardrails. It's not easy to set up the system. But everyone I've seen who has set up a system for themselves to more than half of the time be doing the right thing earlier in the
Thing,
day,
then
they succeed.
I agree. I 100% agree. So maybe
Yeah.
not the very first thing, give yourself a little cookie, but then get on to it.
Exactly. 100% with the cookie. Um, and folks, you can always answer the question of the week at the Sell More Book Show After Party Facebook group. You have been doing, I got to tell the
The
listeners,
team.
you've been doing an amazing job. Lots of answers on these questions lately.
Yeah.
So good job, everybody. Um,
Keep it up.
keep it up. Janie
Keep
said
it
it.
up.
Keep it up.
That's right. Keep it
Um,
up.
come on, y'all. Let's get into the top story. Janie, are you ready?
I'm ready. Dun, dun,
All
dun.
right. Love
Yeah.
it. Get Book is back in your Kindle app. For the first time in years, Amazon now has a Get Book button in its iOS Kindle app, reports Andrew Lazuski of The Verge. Following the Epic Games versus Apple ruling on April 30th, a judge decreed that Apple can no longer collect the 27% commission it took on in-app digital purchases or prohibit app designers from directing buyers to alternate payment options. Jane Friedman in her bottom line newsletter said, quote, it's now easier for Kindle users and other app users to pay for subscriptions and services while using Apple devices. In fact, this legal ruling could be great news for authors too. In-app purchases lower barriers not just to buying books, but in the case of the Kindle app, buying the next book after finishing a book in series, end quote. The Verge also reported that Patreon plans to submit an app update now that the legal ruling is being put into effect, making things easier and cheaper for content creators on that platform as well. How this ruling might impact the Android marketplace remains to be seen, although a Get Book button already mysteriously appeared in the Android Kindle app in early 2025 with no announcement from Amazon or Google. As far as the decision, Apple has already appealed but is complying with it in the interim, prompting additional companies to announce app updates. Janie, I mean, it makes sense. If you
It
had
does.
to go to your Safari browser in order to buy something,
As we all have.
as we all have,
Yeah.
as an extra step, you might sell less, but now that it's
Yep.
back, you might sell more. I mean,
Well,
what were your thoughts on hearing about
oh,
this?
well, yeah. I mean, in terms of have we lost sales because that button wasn't there? Yes, 100%, right? Readers,
Yeah.
like all of us, are lazy or easily distractible. The more
Yep.
steps there
Yep.
are to get to that buy button, the more likely people are like the squirrel, I mean, and then they're gone, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we've lost sales. And I have a question for you. What else could the courts rule on that would make being an author easier? You
I
got any
mean,
idea?
I think that some of some of what we have seen over the last few years is just like uh, readers are stuck in their ways. Readers like to see things a
They
certain
like what they
way.
like. Sure.
And
Yes.
they like to be able to, if they're browsing in their Kindle, they like to be able to go through Kindle. If they want to be able to buy a certain way, they want to be able to buy it. And I think that there isn't necessarily much I'm seeing that like oh, this is a huge hindrance to the reader world. I think that what a lot of authors complain about is people stealing their content and putting it on other sites and making it easier for DMCA takedowns and all of that. And also, and this honestly could be a court thing. We haven't heard as much about it lately, but Amazon bringing the hammer down on authors who actually have been scammed rather than the scam artists themselves.
That's right.
Authors getting kicked out of Kindle Unlimited or getting kicked off
Yep.
Amazon.
Oh, yeah.
And that there is no easy way to appeal that in the system. In Facebook, I have a couple of clients who have no easy way to appeal them losing their Facebook ad account. Like, if a court
Yeah,
is going to
gosh.
do anything to make an author easier, it is to support people like us, independent creators, to support us against the big companies who make it very, very hard for us to reach out and get these things resolved.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, I would love to see that now. Whether anybody will ever take on Amazon or Facebook, I don't know.
I know.
But yeah, but that would be great
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. I think that anything like this, though, that just makes it one click, easier to borrow on KU, easier to make the purchase. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, it's the
theoretically,
same
yeah.
reason why why you shouldn't list 8 different books in your back matter. Um,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it's too cluttered, right? If you give people one option, they do okay. But if
Yeah.
you give them too many options, like, then they lose their
Yeah.
way.
They
Squirrel.
lose their way. I like to think of it like you're giving them a bowl versus you're giving them a colander. If you are just giving them all the leaks in the world that they could go through on your website or in your back matter, instead of just giving them one little spot, the funnel versus 50 holes. That's the big issue. I mean, here's a question to you, Janie. How do you feel like you help simplify it for readers, like with your website or with your back matter? Like, how do you make it so they don't go squirrel?
Well, I mean, you have to understand that you're not just competing with other authors or other books here. You're competing with all the other distractions, everything from this mom's 3 toddlers to, do you know what I mean, watching something else on TV. So I really do think it's always about making it as streamlined and simple as possible. Less, but it's the old question about in ads. And of course, you're the subject matter expert in this. Do you send them to your website? Do you send them straight to direct to the vendor? Do you know what I mean? Are you going to
Right.
lose more if they go to your website and then they have that choice and then so it's a tricky thing, but
I
also you
know.
want people to go to your website rather than the vendor. That's hard. So
I
hard.
know, and this
Yeah.
is the big question with a lot of people doing Shopify right now is, do you send them to the product page? Do you
Yes.
try to get their email address for a coupon? Like, what do you do? And so much of this can be revealed through testing. But how many authors are actually willing to go through that split testing A/B and then split testing again to see, oh, this variation of this product page is actually makes me 20 cents more per click, and so I need to work on that, versus just saying, oh, this is too complicated,
Right.
let's just send them here. Because it is not
We give
big
up
big
sometimes
companies
too
don't
early.
like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you help people test that sort of thing in what you do in
Well,
your
when I'm coaching authors, like in my Pathfinders group, where I coach
uh-huh.
authors who are earning over $2,500 a month in royalties, I will absolutely try to get them to split test
Good.
things.
Yeah.
I will like there was one author I was coaching recently spending approximately $50 a day on Facebook ads. $5 were going to a landing page to sign you up for
Okay.
email. And I was like,
Yeah.
great. And I was
Good.
like, well, what do the other $45 go to? And he was like, well, 20 go to his author central page and 20 go to his just the homepage of his website. And I was like, okay, so we're going to stop that.
Yeah.
We can put more into the email, and then we can go directly to a book page that you're advertising, because Amazon
Yes.
likes that too. Or,
Yes.
and this might be one one of my agency account managers for my author ad agency was trying this recently, to a series page on Amazon,
Oh, okay. Oh,
because someone
interesting.
can literally click add all and you know,
And then
$90
you've gotten a
purchase.
bunch of sale. Dang, yeah, for sure.
So that one
That's a
has
good
worked
thought.
well for her, but I
Especially, I would
mean,
think, for a completed series, if you're
oh yeah.
targeting, hey, this series is done.
Yeah, and
Because,
when you like think about it, one of the issues with Amazon that is not an issue on Kobo and some other sites is being able to charge and get more than 35%, get the full 70% for something that costs more than $9.99. And you can't really do that. But if you
no,
send them to a series page and you can get
then
70% on each one and people click add all, you
at
actually
all,
can
yeah,
charge
that's
more.
a good thing. Yes, that's good
Lots of
thought.
fun. Lots of
Yep,
fun
yep,
things.
yep.
But you know what's
Mm.
also fun, Janie?
No, it's not.
It's time for the lightning round. And so, our guests do a lightning or a thunder sound, and then we go into the lightning
I don't know.
round. Are you
Can you
ready?
even hear that if I do this? If I go,
I can hear.
shh. No.
I
Could you
heard
even
it.
hear my thumping? Okay. All
I
right.
heard
It's
it.
close
I heard the
enough.
thumping. I heard
There's
it.
either
It
that
was good.
or boom, snap the pop my heart.
Oh, you could do that next time.
That's all right.
I love it. Good work,
Okay.
Janie. So,
Thank you.
we're asking the same question to each other in these first two, which is,
Yes, we
how do
are.
you define success for yourself?
Well, that is such an important question, and especially for authors, I feel like as they're starting to get a little further in their career or higher in their
Yeah.
career,
Yeah.
and the big question I ask myself is, are you moving the finish line? Are you moving the goalposts so that you never actually quite hit that successful, place? So that's always an important question. But I think the bigger issue is, how are you going to define success? Are you going to define it by stuff you can control, which is like the hours or the days you spend writing or the number of words you get per day? Or are you basing it on real world factors, but stuff you can't necessarily control, like money made or number of sales or hitting number one on Amazon or winning awards or bestseller lists or something like that? So I believe that the definition of success can and probably should change. For me, it's always been kind of financial. I know when I
Yeah.
went indie back in 2018, the daily dollar amount, I sat down with my husband and said, this is what we need to make in order for this to feel like it's worth all the hours I'm putting in. And that number was, if anybody cares, $300 a day,
Yep.
right? Which means I would make 109,000. That would get me over the six-figure mark.
Yeah.
And I'm talking gross, not necessarily net,
Sure,
not
sure,
net.
sure.
So I feel like, you want to ask yourself, what are your goals, and what are you moving the goalposts, and to choose to celebrate smaller successes too, not just do you hit six figures at the end of the year, but hey, I
Mm,
finished this book, or hey, I wrote this many words. So that is for me. So you tell me how you define success for yourself.
absolutely. Well, let me comment on yours briefly first, then I'll
Okay.
go into my
Yeah.
answer. Absolutely love you bringing up the moving of the goalpost, because so many people do it. They hit that mark, don't truly celebrate. I forced myself. So this past year, I had my first seven-figure year,
Oh,
and
good for you.
it was awesome.
Yes.
And I wouldn't like I know that if I'm acting my typical way, it's like I wouldn't celebrate. So I was like, okay, what's gonna make me feel this? And
Mhm.
and I went and got myself a really, really nice treadmill. And
Good for
so
you.
now
Yes.
I've always wanted one. Um and now every time I look at it, it's like, okay, that's my $1 million treadmill.
And you
And
have to
so
work.
And
That's
yeah, exactly. Well, I love being active. I love
okay,
moving, and
good. Then
so it is
you're,
a
yes.
positive for
Okay.
me. It
That's a
is
positive for
very
you.
much
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
positive for me.
Good for you.
Um, but yeah,
That's
so
amazing.
to
Yes.
answer the question.
Yes.
Um, so I definitely used to define success almost entirely of just like, did I check off all the things that day, and did I make the money? And
Oh
what
God.
I know, I know, and what I'm learning more and more is that all the data, and this is a coach I've worked with, Mia Hewitt has helped me with this, is that all data is neutral. Whether you
Mm-hmm.
made a certain amount of dollars isn't
Mm-hmm.
good or bad. It's
Yes.
neutral. It is the world telling you, well, based on the actions that you took, this is what resulted. And so I think it's more the reason it's neutral is because it's telling you, okay, these are based on what you did. So what can you do differently to produce different results?
Mm.
And so I think that if you're gonna go for goals, doing a certain number of actions or hitting certain levels of action, like number of words per day, number of words per week, is certainly something, like you said, you can control more than dollars in, dollars out. Number of ad spend you put out there. There are some authors you should not be jacking up your ad spend. Then there are authors. I had one recently who was earning 12 to 1 return. And I said, if you had a savings account where you could be earning 12 to 1, how much money would you put in it?
All of
And
it.
all of it. And so I said, as long as your ratio stays above 8 to 1, keep raising it. And she tripled her sales. And so it's
Yeah.
like, there are certain actions you can take
Yes.
that predict your success. And what I would say I am not all the way around to defining my success as, but what I am trying to get to, because I'm still look at the dollar amounts as well.
Well, yeah.
What I am trying to get to is defining the success off the actions I've taken rather than the results I've gotten.
And I think that's good. I think you brought up a good point. You were mentioning it briefly about your checklist, and the
Mm-hmm.
problem with, I think, authors that have become sort of their own business, their own publishers, is
Yep.
that we check things off our checklist, and then instead of saying, "Well done, I'm done for today," what do? We add more stuff onto the checklist,
We
so it's
do.
never completely done, and we go to bed with like, "Well, I didn't." So it's like, come on, cut yourself some slack. You,
I know.
yep. So that's the hard part about being your own boss, I think.
Yeah. Right.
Sometimes.
Limit it. And
Yeah.
when you finish, you're allowed to stop working that day.
Yes. When is enough enough? Yeah. No,
Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
Um, this is relevant, Janie.
Yeah.
How can an author come to terms with so many things being out of their control?
Well, Xanax, tequila. I mean, yeah, like, take your pick.
These
I
are
don't know.
options. These
Well,
are
I know, right?
options.
These are options. Well, I think you phrased that question correctly. It shouldn't be what can you do, what should you do about the things you can't control, because by their definition you can't control them. So trying to control them kind of just gets you stuck. So things we can't control algorithms, we can't control the next big thing, we can't control a TikTok going viral, right? So there's an element of luck to certain things that we
Right.
cannot control, but there are things we can control, right? Our branding, our blurbs, our release schedule to a degree,
Yep.
saying yes to things, saying no to things, all sort of that stuff. I used to, I had a talk one time, and I stated that I was a little bit uncomfortable talking about my success because I felt like I happened to have a good series at the right time, and it propelled me into seven figures, and so that was great.
Yeah.
But I felt like it was luck, and so but then the person said, yeah, but you set yourself up for luck by
Mhm.
being as prepared as possible. So that was true. And so if you will allow me real quickly to talk about this metaphor, it's like being a surfer. we can kind of learn these tricks and skills and elements to staying on the board, which are things we can control,
Yes.
in hopes of catching a big wave and riding it as far and as big as we can. Uh, so when the big wave comes, if you don't have these surfer skills, you're just going to fall off the board, and this momentum is lost. The flip side of that is that you can be the most skilled surfer slash writer, whatever, in the world, but you're still dependent on this wave. So what if the wave doesn't come?
Mm,
But then you're using your skills to make the smaller waves take you further or be more flashy, or so that is kind of a mindset that I have tried to say, that I am going to be as prepared. So that means having good books, well branded, tight branding, understanding what my reader wants, reader experience, and so that I can ride any wave that comes as far and as long and as hard as and as fancy as possible. So
I love
that
that.
is kind of my
I
so
love that. I think that's a good metaphor. It's it's tough, but I think the rather than not building the skills and counting on the wave, it's definitely
yes,
superior to build the skills so that whatever wave comes in, you
whatever
can
wave is
use.
there, you do that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Awesome.
Well, Ken, I ask you a little bit of a tighter question though. So, but
Absolutely.
it's about if you're trying to get a potential reader, do you try to get them on your email list, or do you try to get them to buy the book? Like if you have to choose, because you kind of do have to choose when you're
Right.
when you're
Right.
bringing in readers.
So when authors kind of talk to me about, story origin and book funnel promos. They're like, but I'm
Yes.
only getting the
Yes.
freebie seekers. I'm only getting the freebie
Yes.
seekers. Freebie seekers are not bad readers to have
Okay.
because freebie seekers can leave reviews.
That's true. Yeah.
And so when you send an ad to go to a book, you either have a person who is going to buy your book or isn't going to buy your book. And the people who don't buy your book, they go away forever.
Yeah.
If you're running an ad to your email list, you get someone on your list, and that person on your list can now serve multiple purposes: writing a review, posting about it on their social media, buying your book. And so I feel like when you get people on your email list, it gives you more options.
Yes.
And so that's one of the balancing things. But we've come to an interesting time in the author world where, commonly to how it works, the author world is 5 to 10 years behind the rest of the internet. I'm sorry, but it's true. Discovered that Shopify and direct selling exist. And when you sell someone on Shopify or just your website with WooCommerce or whatever you have set up, and they buy a thing, you also get their email address.
Well, that's true.
And that's a beautiful thing. And so we've talked about folks like Anne Marie Meyer, who spent $1.3 million or spent $1.1 million in Facebook ads to earn $1.3 million in Shopify sales, which sounds like, oh my gosh, why would you do that other than trying to rack up credit card miles? The answer is, in part, it's to get tens of thousands of email addresses of buyers.
Yes.
And those folks are very, very valuable in the future. And so I think that while not everyone is up to the point that they can get a purchase and an email address at the same time, I do think that that's eventually going to be a place that a lot of authors go.
Yeah. 100% agree with you. And right now, we've been thinking about that.
Right. I know.
Yeah. I mean, we don't get the email address when we send them to Amazon, let's just say, right?
Right.
If we send them to our direct shop, then they buy for the same price or less. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, mhm,
Exactly. Exactly.
okay.
So I'm here to make you think.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes, you are.
So, last question of the lightning round,
Okay.
and then we're gonna come up with a question of the week together. So get
Okay.
that part of the brain ready. Um, What misconceptions do you think authors have about readers? What do we think readers do that they don't actually do, or what do we think readers don't do that they actually do? What do we
Well,
think?
if you would allow me to climb up here on my soapbox.
Do it, do it.
Okay, I'll be honest with you. I think that I think authors sometimes think that readers are interested in our author drama.
Ah,
And readers just want the book. They just
mm,
want a book.
mm-hmm.
They want to escape. I believe very strongly in keeping readers out of my author business, in my any author drama. I will not
Yeah,
ever post anything on social media about any of that stuff. Okay, I'm just saying that's my personal opinion. Like
right.
if I have to delay a pre-order, I do not go into a big sob story to my readers and send up because I say this and I say it nicely though. It's none of their business. Do you know what I mean? It's a
Mm-hmm.
business decision to delay this pre-order. I may just say, just want to let you know you're going to get an email from Amazon that this is delayed. Okay. But or not. Sometimes I just let it go because
Yeah.
that it's just run your business. Like McDonald's does not consult me when they're going to raise their prices 15 cents for stuff, and they don't send me an email saying we're sorry, we're raising our prices. It make I think readers want to read. Give them good books. That's what I
Mm.
think sometimes we don't. There's
I
kind of
like that.
lose sight
I
of.
like that a lot. No, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Uh, it's why I don't post drama on my
Yeah.
accounts and never will.
Not the place for it. Yeah.
Never
Right
will.
on. Right on.
So Janie, we need a question of the week. We need to ask our
Yeah.
people something that could
Okay.
be related to this get book thing. It could be related to we could even look.
What about success?
I
How
like
do you
it.
feel about that?
You and I
Like
were coming to the
how
same
do they
place.
define? Okay, how do they define success?
I like it. That's it. Yeah,
Or how do they celebrate their success when they hit a milestone?
I
You
love it.
know, because
Celebrate.
we all need to get back to that.
I love
Just
it.
FYI, when I was first, I have four children. They're in their early 20s now, but
Yeah.
they were young. And so the goal was they understood if mommy could write this first book, then we would go to Disney World. And you have never seen four little 7, 8, 9, 10 year olds who are like, be quiet, mommy's working. And so that helped get that first book done. So there you go.
That's
But
amazing. You have a
now I
little
celebrate
army.
by getting a massage. Not that that is a big deal, but for me, I like to
No,
get
it's you.
that.
That's
So how do
awesome.
you celebrate a milestone? So,
I love it. So,
yeah.
final question of it is: how do you define success for yourself, and/or how do you celebrate success?
Love it. That's good.
So,
That's a
good
good
stuff,
question.
Janie.
All
Y'all, you
right.
can answer the question of the week over at the Selmore Book Show After Party Facebook group. You can go find out more about Janie, who will be back here next week as well,
Yes, I will.
at janiecrouch.com. And remember,
Yeah.
you can take the 14-day Author Ad Profit Challenge for just $9 at authorsadvertise.com. Janie, it was so nice having you on the show today.
Yay! I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're
See you
welcome.
next week.
Okay, sounds good. For Janie, I'm Brian. Have a great week of book selling, everybody. And we'll be back next week for episode 580. Bye, everyone.